Hello, and welcome along to another in our regular series of communication and education about the Sage CRM product. I'm joined today by my colleague Jeff Richards.
Hello.
I'm David Beard, the CRM principal, looking after the commercial direction and the future of Sage CRM around the world. And we're here today, Jeff and I, to talk to you about Sage CRM and what's coming in 2020 R2, our next release in the product. Now, before I make a start, let's remind everybody of the product's commercial and technical strategy. So I think that's a useful way to set the scene about where the product is positioned and where we're heading in the future. We're all about delivering to market a fantastic CRM system with the best set of rounded features in a modern UI environment, and then spending time with each and every release, looking to improve and tweak the pieces that make the product nice, simple, and enjoyable to use, including looking at the user experience overall and eliminating some of those twiddly pain points that sometimes people identify as needing improvement. A big part of our strategy as well is to spend as much time as possible focusing on making that product the core of a business's infrastructure for technology and customer management, and looking at the way it can be integrated not only with accounting systems, as we traditionally position it, but also to other systems inside a business, whatever they might be. It's all about extending that return on investment that customers like to get by adding CRM to their underpinning accounting solution. Commercial strategy also, as the Sage Group sees it, is very much that Sage CRM is a very important product within the portfolio we call Run for Value. For us, a very high margin product, which means that the product is very well regarded and will continue to be developed, sold and maintained for the foreseeable future, as it services a very lucrative and growing worldwide market for customer relationship management. It offers partners and customers the ability to increase the value that they get from their product. And that's good for them and certainly good for the Sage Group. Before we look at 2020 R2, Jeff and I spoke a little while ago on the last release about the changes in ActiveX and why that was an important part of the product. And Jeff, I think it's worth taking 30 seconds or so just to reflect on those changes and how it sets us up for the future.
Yes, thank you very much, David. We know that ActiveX as a technology is a very old technology, very fundamental to a lot of the way in which Windows used to work and a lot of the way in which Microsoft products used to work. And originally, when the product Sage CRM was created, we used ActiveX for a lot of the integration features with things like Outlook, things like the mail merge feature. All of that has started to change as ActiveX itself is something that is not supported by modern browsers, and Microsoft themselves don't support ActiveX within Edge. So the direction has to be to eliminate ActiveX from within the product and replace that with HTML5 based technologies, and that's what we're doing at the moment. So we've seen quite a lot of changes in 2020 R1 regarding the way in which Outlook integration is installed, not dependent on ActiveX anymore, etc. So we're moving in the direction in which we are not dependent on ActiveX technology and the general insurance that we're using only HTML5 and future-proof technologies.
Excellent. Thanks for that quick recap. It's an important statement to make because it has affected quite a lot of the work we've done in the last release or two. All right, let's pivot to today's conversation itself, the release of 2020 R2. We're looking to release in August 2020. And these are showing, the 6 boxes on the screen are showing a summary of what's inside of this release. It's a preview, as I said, of what's coming, and things may well change between now and August, but that is the stated intent at the moment. And what we're finding, and I'll let Jeff talk to the detail of some of these, but we are being forced, mandated to incorporate a large number of changes from other vendors in order to fall in line with security changes, etc. So here's the summary, but let me hand over to Jeff again, who'll talk us through some of the deeper technical elements around what you see on the screen.
Yes, thank you very much. Let's explain one of the things to talk about. We have a 6-month rolling development program, and that means that as we carry out work but for each release. That's 2020 R1, 2020 R2, and then into the future it'll be 2021 R1, 2021 R2, etc. Is that if there are security requirements, they tend to get rolled up into the same development effort. So we're looking at some realities that we have to take into account, changes around TLS, that's Transport Layer Security, and accounting for that, and also OAuth 2 type accreditation as well. So let's first of all explain a little bit of I've started to throw out some jargon with TLS already. So let's explain what that is. You'll be very well aware that Sage CRM is a browser-based experience. It's you run and experience the interface through the browser, and it's dependent on the underlying technology of HTTP, and you may well know about HTTPS, which is the secure HTTP. The S there it indicates that there is a security layer involved, and traditionally that's known as SSL, Secure Sockets Layer. But actually SSL is itself very, very old technology and was replaced by Transport Layer Security, TLS. TLS has a number of different standards that involve the encryption of this, and it started off with TLS version 1, then it became version 1.1, and now we've got two main standards, 1.2 and 1.3. A decision has been made to deprecate all of the old versions of TLS within the product. So, for example, Sage CRM dropped support for TLS 1 in 2018 R2, but we're faced with a reality, and that all of the Internet Engineering Task Force has said that we should stop using, everyone should stop using TLS 1.1 from 2020. And all the vendors are making these changes, but they're moving at slightly different speeds. And so what we were faced with is this creeping disabling of TLS 1.1 within the product. And this is fundamental technology. It affects everything from the way in which Sage CRM is installed, communicates with and configures web servers. We have a hybrid architecture working with Tomcat and IIS as the web servers. And we needed to make sure that we could run in an environment where it didn't matter whether TLS 1.1 was switched off in the browser or on the server. And so what we've done is spent a lot of time making sure that Sage CRM can work in an environment in which the operating system has TLS 1.1 completely disabled. So we are working with 1.2 onwards in terms of our standards. And so that's a pretty fundamental change. Now, we also had to make another change, which is coming in October, which is the way in which Microsoft Exchange Online is deprecating or removing the ability to authenticate using basic authentication and that would affect the way in which our web services interact with Exchange. And so we've had to adopt OAuth 2 as the change to allow for the synchronization and interaction. So this removal of support for basic authentication affects Exchange Web Services, Exchange Active Sync, the IMAP and POP, and Remote PowerShell protocols. All this coming in October the 13th, 2020. Now, it's not going to affect, it's going to have impacts on things like anything that's interacting with POP, and it's going to have, from a CRM perspective, our Exchange integration, which was previously using the web services. So it's not going to affect though SMTP, so that's a really good thing at this stage. But it does have implications for us. So if I look at the next slide, you can see that the Exchange Web Services integration for Sage CRM really makes use of Exchange Web Services in order to interact with that, and it's all being passed normally through a secure layer. So it would be going under the TLS 1.2, and it also has to make sure that we are working with OAuth 2. So there's a lot of effort that has gone into making sure that we can implement this standard, and the next slide actually provides us with something of a graphical representation of what's going on. If you can think about the way in which you can log onto a site and you use your, say, Facebook or Google credentials or LinkedIn credentials, they're forms of OAuth 2 type integrations where you're using a trusted third party in order to provide the credentials. So it's a validation. You're never actually logging onto the site with your own credentials. You're using a token that is provided, and OAuth 2 works on this basis where we have a secure delegated access with a server response. So we'll have the Azure Azure Active Directory service providing the credential support, which we then use to log on into which we would then log on into Exchange. So, and we can see in the steps that has taken place within the product, and there'll be demonstrations and videos about this in detail on the resource sites. But basically, we have to set up the application impersonation role within Exchange. We'll register Sage CRM as a new app within the Azure Active Directory and then configure Exchange integration within Sage CRM. So a number of distinct steps that we go through in order to allow for the integration. So in summary, where we are, what we've seen is an awful lot of work gone into Sage CRM 20R2 to ensure that we have TLS 1.2 support and all other versions deprecated and removed, support for that completely removed, and then OAuth 2 for the Exchange integration. In terms of other patches being applied, TLS 1.1 is going back in and patches made available for all versions of 2018 R1 onwards. We haven't yet, at the time of recording of this, confirmed, because we've not yet reached code freeze within the development cycle. We've not yet confirmed whether we are only providing OAuth 2 backwards compatibility for 2020 R1 or going back to 2020 R3. So please check the release notes at time of release for the confirmation of which of the versions that we're going back to support the integration. And the majority of our customers are on these versions, so it will capture those people who are using Exchange integration.
Okay, that's useful stuff. Thank you, Jeff. And as you can see, and as Jeff has more than adequately pointed out, quite a lot of the development cycle for this release has been taken over in making sure we fundamentally meet, and in some cases, move ahead of the requirements for security from these vendors. Right, so thank you for that, Jeff. Let's talk about something that we sort of began in the last release, and we are finishing some work around the developer kit for developers and so forth. So over to you, Jeff.
Thank you. I actually don't think this is something that we can say is done. This is a continual process that we're working on. We want to make sure that Sage CRM is one of the easiest products in which to develop, and it is ideally suited and positioned to allow for customizations and integration with customer systems. So we've done some work to provide enhanced access to the software development kit. This is the library of snippets and templates which are very, very useful for the anything using the .NET API or the web services, and it also, the SDK contains libraries for working with the classic ASP pages or the COM API, the internal API within the software, as well as extensions of the product like the advanced email manager and self-service. There's even snippets and libraries that are suitable for the client-side API, which is used for the customization of the user interface. All these things are now available for any customer to be able to download, to be able to use, and then also we will be able to make a further change to this in that the advanced customization wizard, which is used for the implementation of new custom entities within the system, no longer requires a special license. So you can use this, and you can then also make sure that you're able to use it with the .NET API as well. Anyone can do that. We've widened the access into the development tools to allow for customers with the necessary supported technical staff and partners to be able to make the customizations which fit CRM even more into an organization's operations.
Okay. And yes, and very much speaks to this stated objective earlier in the presentation around opening up the product, making it easier for it to be the core at the business technology of the business technology, and extend it to other systems and connect to other systems. All right. Thank you for that. That's a good update on that one. So making things easier and faster for development. As part of the regular development process, of course, we cycle through not only big ticket items like we've already talked about, but also some of the other things that we collect from our stakeholders around the world. And these stakeholders can be things like online forum posts that Jeff looks after on Sage City. We talk to our regional representatives of the product. We also look at all the support cases that come from the regions into the core development team in Dublin. All of these go towards also adding features, updates, changes to the release. Jeff, again, would you mind walking us through some of these, please?
Yeah, sure. One of the things although we've given the outline and given the impression that, for example, that a lot of the effort has gone into the security changes that have been required to be made. In fact, we're very pleased with the fact that we've maintained the standard cadence of bug fixing and general feature improvements. So we've got in excess of 35 cases being dealt with within the release notes. These are a mix of actual support requests and feature fixes, but also some minor enhancements. And we've also put in some very strong user interface enhancements to a feature that we introduced in the last version, which is around the MailChimp features. These are, although we've called them as part of the MailChimp integration features, which is the uniqueness of an email address, it's actually very important conceptually for being able to integrate with a very great number of cloud-based services which use the idea of an email address as an alternative key for identifying a person or a contact. So we've made some changes in MailChimp that supports the uniqueness concept within company, person, lead. We've also ensured that when you are looking at an existing system which hasn't enforced uniqueness of email addresses, you can then drill down more easily to look at the details of records which are non-unique. So you can look at the any potential duplication of emails to see why these people are sharing the same email address. Okay.
And finally, as part of the release, we always make sure there's lots of surrounding material to help partners, customers, and our regional stakeholders understand more of what's coming and how to look after it. So Jeff, once more to you, if you could have a quick run through about what we've got coming through that.
Yes, anything that we are going to be talking about, anything that I've started to explain here, you will see up on the Help Center. There's a lot of work on being done by the documentation team to make sure that 2020 R2 will be fully represented here. So please do check out help.sagecrm.com where you can find all the references. The documentation and references have been updated. So you've got changes being made to the user guide, to the administrator guide, to reflect the MailChimp changes, the way in which Exchange integration is being changed, as well as some changes to the software requirements. Please note that although we do provide translations for the release notes into all of the core languages, English, German, French, and Spanish, the full documentation, though, remains as being English language only.
As ever, changes in support, not so many I see on this screen, Jeff.
No, this is thankfully there hasn't been so much turmoil, say for example in the changes and rapidity of Android and iPhone operating system changes. So we're good there. We also are not dropping too many things. There is a question of when it comes to database support. So at the moment, again at time of recording, the decision had certainly been made that we're supporting from SQL Server 2017's cumulative update 20. or earlier. So that's what we're supporting. We haven't yet made a decision around the support for 2019 database. If we do, and so we're adding that into the testing and UA features, then we may see dropping a version of SQL Server in terms of support. And that just reflects the fact that we cannot QA everything based on the requirements of the system. We have to go with what is the core direction of travel for our customers.
Okay. And we've spoken previously about moving people through the releases. Can you just speak to this again one more time? I think it's useful information.
Yes, please note that one of the realities that we're dealing with this year is the ending of support for 2017 R1, R2, R3. So those that support is dropped for them, I think, at the end of September. And we have a expectation that people will have upgraded from 2017 onwards to 2019, for example, or to 2020 R1. So the upgrade path is from anything from 2018 R1 onwards, and you can get up to straight away to 2020 R2. Please note, if we have a look at the long tail idea, is that that's still valid. So we have lots of customers who are still carrying on through the upgrade process, and there's lots of material to help people on that journey. So if you are on an older version of the product, then you really should be looking to upgrade. The drivers are not just feature changes and the nice stuff that we provide there. We've got some you need to look at this because of the security changes and other feature changes that are being forced on us. So one of the reasons, the drivers, if you're not satisfied with the fact that TLS, anything that was using TLS 1.1 and earlier should really be removed. And if you're not working with Exchange integration, which is another reason for upgrade, then look at the reality that you're going to find if you're using an older version of CRM before, I think 2017 R3 especially, you'll find suddenly the Flash, any of the charts built using Flash will stop working as well. So there are a number of different things to drive you on in the upgrade cycle if you like working with Sage CRM as a core product. But these environmental changes we do need to take into account.
Okay, yes, there's some important and must do things, as you say, so please be aware of these dates and the releases that your customers might be on. Releases also include more than software and more than release notes and things like that. There's also the good work that Mr. Richards here puts into education, and let's have Jeff talk to us about what he's planning in terms of video and other things to come.
Well, we've obviously got, like this video, the what's new, what's coming in Sage CRM 2020 R2. There'll be some detailed features, detailed videos and resources on covering the new way in which the integration is set up and the different features, the enhancements to the MailChimp integration. And we have an ongoing program to round out the educational provision for Sage CRM. This is the short course, little snippets of education that is available on the support and training website. So we've got a lot of supporting videos coming around that. And sorry, I was going to add a few more things there, David, and that is that we're also aiming to provide some supporting explanation to all of the feature changes within Sage CRM 2020 R2 with Sage City articles. So these will be a referenceable explanation. So if you don't quite understand what the changes to transport layer security implications are, there'll be articles there which will explain what those changes are, as well as a little bit about background of explaining what OAuth 2 is, for example.
And I think they'd be welcome, because I think it is for a lot of people. It's like, oh, this is something I've not read about before, so I do need to study up before I make any decisions. Help as well, of course, as part of help.sagecrm.com. We always publish the end of life cycle documents or dates as it is shown there, and that's always available on help.sagecrm.com. And to reinforce Jeff's earlier point, there are releases coming to end of life September 2020 from the 2017 release cycle. Okay, so I'll bring that all to a summarized one slide picture set. Thank you, Jeff, for your technical deep dives there. But what we're producing for R2 in August is significant changes to TLS and OAuth 2 to make sure that we do comply with some of those mandated changes, and then looking at some additional functionality and improvements to that with the SDK and some of the CX customer experience enhancements in the product. There'll also be the usual round of cases. We're looking somewhere around 38 cases that have been either raised as support or through forums or things like that, which will be resolved. We'll have more details of that closer to the release, right, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. And please do. As I said, we've recorded this because we want to be right in the middle of the development. We know what's going on, but some of the decisions are still going up to the wire in terms of slight changes to what will be the supported environments, etc. And so please do look at the release notes, and they will be the absolute certainty of what is covered within the release.
And any further updates will be delivered either through another one of these, but certainly in places like Sage City and so forth. So do keep your eyes peeled for that. Jeff, thank you for running us through that. For all of you listening in, thank you very much for attending. We hope it's been useful. This has been What's Coming in Sage CRM 2020 R2.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.